What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a brand new video. Now today you join me for another car review. As you can see, I have with me here the BMW X6M. Now big thanks to the owner for bringing the car out here. Do check out his Instagram, which will be on screen right now, and I'll also link it down in the description below. Now I really do hope you guys enjoyed this review. Let's get right into it.
As I woke up one morning, just thinking about this night. As I woke up one morning, just thinking about this night. As I woke up one morning, just thinking about this night. As I woke up one morning, just thinking about this night. Just thinking about this night.
Okay, so the BMW X6M. Now let's backtrack a bit. Now the BMW X6 was introduced back in 2008 to sit alongside the X5. They share platforms, but the X6 is the more stylish and more sharper variant. Now this is the third generation, and this example in particular is actually very special. This is called the first edition. It's a limited edition, one of 250 in the world, not in South Africa, in the world. Now what they did with the first edition is they've offered a lot of the options on this car as standard, like the carbon fiber exterior pack, the merino leather inside, and a lot of the technology pack. Now the X6M in general is quite a mean looking thing. Like up front you have the M specific grille, you have these very sharp looking headlights which are very slim, BMW laser lights, and you have all these gaping openings down below for the radiators, for the intercoolers, and you have the sensor for the radar guided cruise control. Now an interesting fact about the first edition, they were actually offered with two paint colors. One is this one, which is merino bay blue, frozen metallic, and dark silver frozen metallic. Those were the only colors you can choose with the first editions, and they really do help accentuate the lines on the car, like the bonnet creases, all the sharp lines on the sides. It's quite a mean looking thing. Coming around to the side now, the front tires, or wheels rather, are actually 21 inches, sitting on 295 section tires for the front tires. To put it into perspective, this is the width on the rear tires on a BMW M4. That is insane. Now this whole thing has a staggered setup, meaning the wheels on the front are actually smaller than the wheels out in back. We'll get into the wheels on the back. You have this little side piece which is unique to the X6. You don't get that on the X5M. As you can see, carbon mirrors which come with the first edition, and this paint color just glistens. Now coming around to the back, the rear section tires are actually 315 millimeters. That is some really thick tires. Now the wheels are actually 22 inches on the back, which is quite nice. Coming around to the rear of the car, you have this gurney flap spoiler which is in carbon fiber, and yeah, it does look pretty mean out and back. Now the X6 is one car that actually splits a lot of opinion. You either like it or you don't, more especially when it comes to its styling. Now me personally, I find the rear a bit weird, and for that reason I have to go with Team X5. But I have to say, it is quite an aggressive looking thing, and you have these massive quad tail pipes which just stand out. And yeah, that's where I'll leave it off with the exterior. Let's actually jump into the interior. So guys, the X6M interior. Now this one being the first edition is a little bit more special than a non-first edition X6M, so as to say. Now you get this merino leather, which is very special and soft Napa leather, and it's literally everywhere, on the seats, on the top of the dashboard. And you get this orange stitching, which does actually stand out. There's also a little badge which says first edition on the passenger side dashboard, and 1 of 250, which is, yeah, just insane. Now I'll touch upon the quality. Now, hate them or love them, BMW makes one of the best interior qualities out there. Now, differentiate between interior design and interior quality. Quality is all the materials that you interact with and how well put together the whole thing is. So BMWs normally feel very well put together, like anything you touch feels very nice and solid, and all the carbon fiber work in here just glistens on the dashboard, on the center console, on the door cards. And I just love everything that's going on with the doors. You have the speaker grills for the Bowers and Wilkins diamond sound system, and you have all this quilting of the leather. You have the contrast with the white leather, the black leather, the orange stitching, and the whole thing just looks so beautiful. Now, quality is quite amazing in here, just simply put. Now, I'm actually going to put the ignition on because I want to talk you guys through some few interesting buttons that you find on the center console. Ooh, had to put it on. Now, this thing sounds incredible. Now, there's a button which is labeled M mode. The M mode button has 3 pre-configured driving modes. One is road, sport, and then track mode. So you can cycle through the different modes. So road is your more comfort mode, basically. And then sport, I think that is pretty self-explanatory. Now you cycle using the button. Now, if you hold down the M mode button for a few seconds, it actually engages track mode, which is a bit more minimalistic. It deactivates all the stuff that you don't need while you're on track, because you need to be focused. For one, the infotainment screen actually turns off, and the dials on the instrument cluster changes into a specific M mode looking dial, which is just insane. Now I'll just pop it out of track mode so we can talk through some of the other stuff. Now I'll just put it into normal road. Now we're done with the M mode button. There is a button labeled setup. Now with the setup button, you have a few menus that pop up. You can basically pre-select how you want the car to be set up, from the engine, the chassis, the steering wheel, the brake, and the MX drive system. Now most of the menus have efficient, sport, and sport plus. So you can have the engine in sport, have the chassis in comfort, have the steering wheel in comfort, whichever way you like. Now, speaking of the setup button, that goes in hand with 2 buttons that you find on the steering wheel. That is the M1 and the M2 buttons. Now, whatever setup you go with, well, whatever configuration you go with on the setup button, you can pre-save it on either of the M1 and M2 buttons, such that when you're looking for your specific setup, you don't have to faff around and fiddle around with the buttons. You can have it accessible from the tip of your fingers, so as to say. So they go hand in hand like that. Other buttons are just the more generic stuff. There's a button for the exhaust. You can put it on and off, basically closes and opens the exhaust flaps. Other than that, everything else is the iDrive system. You have the swivel wheel that you can use to operate the infotainment screen, which is also a touch screen, so whatever rocks your boat. And yeah, there's a lot more to touch upon, but I don't really think I want to get into stuff like practicality, because the car is actually quite practical. Like the doors, you have these huge pockets on the doors. You can fit really huge bottles. One thing I forgot to mention, now this car comes with navy Alcantara roofliner, which looks absolutely beautiful, and you have these speaker grills for the Bowers and Wilkins sound system. And yeah, in here it's just nice. Like on the headrest, you have a little X6M badge. I'm not sure if I mentioned the contrasted seats. You have the black with the white, the quilting, and yeah, the whole thing it's just beautiful in here. With that being said, let's actually check out the space in the back. Okay, so the back seat. Now, fun fact about the X6, this was the first ever SUV coupe styled thing. So this trend actually started with the X6 back in 2008, and everyone else hopped on the trend. You have the Porsche Cayenne coupe right now, you have the Mercedes GLE coupe, Audi RS Q8, which is also a coupe styled SUV. So basically, fun fact is it started with the X6. Now this seat is so far back, but the room back here isn't all too bad, although it is compromised with the slanting roofline. For very tall people, yeah, headroom might be a bit of a challenge. It is certainly less practical than in the X5, so as to say. But back here, quality is still just as nice as in the front. You still get the two-tone merino leather, although I've noticed the black isn't so much back here as in the front. But yeah, it's still there. It's still the nice soft leather. Or you also get M-colored stitching on the seat belts, also in the front, so as to say. I'll overlay a shot. Now back here you have rear climate control. I'm pretty sure this thing has like 4-zone climate control where you can set up different temperatures for every individual seat and so on. And also there's rear entertainment screens back here. I'm pretty sure you can watch some movies, work on these screens and so on. But yeah, this is certainly a huge SUV, so practicality is quite decent, but slightly compromised compared to the X5. Let's actually check out the boot space. So the X6M boot space, now you're looking at 580 liters in boot capacity. Now for comparison's sake, the X5M actually has 650 liters in boot capacity, so you do lose out on a few liters with the X6. Now there are a few bags back here, and I think they actually make the boot spacing quite interesting opposed to if it was just empty. Now you have these two pockets which are netted on either side. There's also an underfloor with our spare wheel, some tire repair kits, and yeah, you can also throw in a few stuff under there, so that's some extra room for you. You also have this aluminium plating just to protect the paint and so on. But yeah, quite a decently sized boot overall. Okay, so guys, let's discuss pricing. Now this is the third generation X6M. These first started rolling out around 2020. Now the X5 and X6 overall, or in general, have recently received a facelift, or LCI in BMW terms. Now we'll start with the pricing of these pre-facelifts. Now early 2020 models are going for anywhere from 1.8 to 1.9 million rands depending on mileage, and these were made all the way until 2023, and the later 2023 cars are going for anywhere from 2.8 to 2.9 million rands. Now the brand new LCI base price is 3,280,000 rands, and that's pretty much pricing on the current generation BMW X6M. Okay, so let's get into the technicalities. Now let's start with the engine. Now you're looking at the infamous S63 motor. This is the code name for this engine. It's a 4.4 liter twin turbo V8, in this case making 460 kilowatts, which is around 625 metric horsepower and 750 newton meters of torque. Now this engine is found in a lot other BMW models, your M5s, your M8s, your XMs and so on. Now the other technical stuff, this engine actually has a hot V setup. What that means is the turbos are actually sitting within the cylinder banks. That helps in reducing turbo lag, because the turbo air doesn't have to travel a long distance to get to the engine. So that's how it helps in reducing turbo lag. Now other technical stuff, it's of course four-wheel drive, MX drive. Now it's set up as a rear biased system, and it's actually a configurable all-wheel drive system. So you have the normal mode for the all-wheel drive system, and you also have all-wheel drive sport, which will send a lot more power to the rear. Very BMW-esque. Now there is a lot of chassis bracing, which you can see in the engine bay. There is more within the underfloor of the car and generally throughout the whole chassis. Now the X6M is actually slightly sharper than the X5M because it receives a lot more chassis bracing than the X5. There's also an M Sports differential at the rear, which just helps in power transfer between the rear wheels, and again you have those huge tires at the back to help with all the grip that you need. And also there's M Sport suspension, there's also an M Performance exhaust, and yeah, that's pretty much all the engine technicalities or the technical setup of this vehicle that you need to know about. Now, let's actually listen to the exhaust and experience how this car drives. Okay, so guys, driving the BMW X6M. Now, the first thing I noticed about being in the driver's seat is you feel like you're in a cocoon because you sit so hunkered down. The windscreen is so rigged, and pretty much a lot of the car's components feel higher up and you're so down low. And another interesting thing is the suspension. Now, I haven't driven a lot of this car's rivals like your Cayenne turbos, Lamborghini Uruses, but I may have experienced a few of those cars. But I have to say, the suspension in this car is quite stiff, especially for the type of car that it is. I mean, this thing still needs to be a good daily. You can daily it, but you do notice the extra stiff suspension, and you have a good feel of the width of the tires. You can feel what every corner is doing. The tires also being so wide and being so low profile, you can get a lot of tire noise, especially when you're doing like high speeds. But other than that, it's quite a nice place to be in. Like all the leather in here, it's quite a relaxing place, but you can tell that they've gone the extra mile when it comes to sharpening the suspension. So that is definitely something to note. So guys, we are outside the estate now, and let's experience the performance side of this thing. Well, we're still navigating a bit. Say what you want to say about this engine. Might not be the best sounding, but when it comes to raw power and performance, oh man, this thing is strong. If you just put your foot down, it's quick. The brakes as well, they feel very solid, confidence inspiring too. 6-piston calipers, which are around 390 mils in diameter, I think. We're gonna go into M2 mode. That's the mode that has the pre-configured everything in its sportiest setting. Oh, man, the brakes are actually very strong. I almost missed the turn there and I had to go a bit hard on the brakes. It stops really well because remember, this thing weighs like 2.3 tons. That is a lot of mass. Now, a bit of curves. This is where the rough suspension shines actually. For a big old boy like this, man, it just, yeah, it's quite sharp around the turns. But I actually feel like I prefer using manual, because I feel like in auto it just holds the gears a bit too long. Oh man, the 8-speed ZF Auto as well. I mean, outside of dual clutches and all, I think this is definitely one of the fastest shifting boxes. It is very responsive when you're using the pedals, and it's just a great pairing with this engine. Man, this gearbox is actually very fast for an auto box. Man, these brakes, I cannot believe how quickly this thing can stop. I mean, it's a huge car. Even when you're driving, you can feel that there is a lot of car around you. Oh man, that gearbox, wow, that is very impressive. I'm really impressed. Okay, downshifts are not instantaneous, but they are quick, hey? But upshifts are definitely instantaneous. As soon as you touch the pedal, gives you the next gear. Oh man, this is such a lovely car. The way you can have your whole family in here, the way you're sitting in absolute luxury with all this merino leather. and with the flick of a few buttons it turns into a totally different animal. Oh, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, 3.8 seconds. But in the real world they can actually do it quicker, around 3.6 seconds. It's been tested several times on stuff like CarWow, and it's a lot quicker, hey, than what they claim. Oh man, that is so impressive. That is really impressive. I'm not sure if you guys can get a sense of the sound if I roll down the window, but we'll try. Yeah, there's quite a lot of wind noise, but it's not the loudest thing out there, but it is still quite an exciting sound, so as to say. Oh man, this market, there are so many other options. I mean, from Porsche with the Cayenne, from Audi with the Urus Q8. If you want to stretch a bit in terms of budget, Lamborghini with the Urus, Trackhawks, Mercedes with the Jelly 63s. And I think it goes down to a matter of taste in terms of looks, engine setup, sound, interior, design, brand, logo. It all depends on what you want, but the X6 is a great car. I mean, it's amazing. It's a phenomenal car. It does pretty much everything perfectly. If you can live with the slightly rough suspension, then I mean, it's not like it's back braking or anything like that, but you do notice that the suspension is so focused compared to, say, a regular X6. But yeah, I can't dial down my choice to one specific car. It's all up to you as the buyer, which brand you want to go with or which car you want to go with. But yeah, it is a great car in so many ways. There are some compromises with the shape. Practicality is not as practical as the X5, like I mentioned. Yeah, man. Typical day in Joburg. That's why you always have to be careful while driving. But yeah, I think that's where I'll sign it off. I really do hope you guys enjoyed this video. Do check out the owner's Instagram, because he does post a lot of cool content of what he's always out and about, his lifestyle, this car, other cars that he experiences. So yeah, do check him out. But other than that, I really do hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time, that's cheers from me.